Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. This is Twist Gaming, where you get to play board games with us. We're coming to you live here from the GAMA convention in Reno, Nevada, bringing you all the cool board game coverage, insider information, and unique scoops coming from the con all week long. But first, let's get some introductions out of the way. As usual, I'm your host, Matt, and I am joined with Jim from ARES Games. How you doing today, Jim?
Good. Glad to be here.
So, first and foremost, how's the con treating you so far?
So far, so good. Everything's been going great. It's a different vibe than Las Vegas, being here in Reno.
That's
so
for sure.
The hotel has been great.
The setup's fantastic this year. So, getting everything set up here, you had a chance to break open this rather large board that we got on the table here. So, this is Hannibal. Can you tell us a little bit about what Hannibal is?
So Hannibal is actually a two-player strategic board game. So you see right here, and what we've done with Hannibal itself is it's two games. It's Hannibal, which we've kind of talked about, and then Hamilcar, which is the flip side of the map, which 20 years ago when Hannibal and Hamilcar came out, it was two separate games. It's been out of print for a long time. When we brought it back, we wanted to bring back the whole experience all at one time, so we packaged them together, and now you got both under one box. Hannibal itself, played on this side of the map, it's a game of territory control, where you take your generals who move their armies and they try to seize territory. On the flip side, Hamilcar is more of a naval battle, so you've got coastlines and much more of the open sea where you're meeting people in the Mediterranean Ocean trying to defeat them. As you might expect from Hannibal and Hamilcar, it's the war between Carthage and Rome.
So what kind of game are we looking at here? What's the backbone in terms of mechanisms?
There's two things that make this game stand out for people who are lucky enough to have the original product. One is how you play cards. So you're dealt hands of cards, and hand of cards determine your play. If you look here on the board right here, as you play through the rounds, you'll get a different number of cards get played. So you'll play, for example, get 9 cards, get 8 cards, etc.
Right.
So when each turn, so you play a card. In this case, if I have 8 cards and you have 8 cards, we go back and forth playing a card. We do what the card says, and that's the essence of the game right there. Cards come in one of 3 types. It's either a card that can be played for Carthage, a card that can be played for Rome, or a card that can be played for either. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to strategically understand what your opponent's doing and play cards at the right time. Now, if you're Rome and you get a handful of Carthage cards, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because every card has value. You just have to understand how to use it. The second piece is the numbers. So in some cases, having a high number is really, really valuable. In other cases, actually having a lower number is valuable as well. So there's not a particular card that you go, oh man, I got a hand of bad cards, they're all one. That's actually, depending on what's going on and how you position yourself, not a terrible thing.
So there aren't inherently bad cards?
No. There's just the timing of the cards is key, and understanding when to play based on the strategic setup of the board. When you're playing that card, it becomes really, really critical to understand how to maximize your cards. The second piece is the conflict itself. The conflict is based on the generals. So so here we have, for example, 2 different generals.
So who do we got here?
I'm not sure who I actually picked up there. I'd have to look up who these strapping youths are. But here's the Hannibal, for example. So we can show you the Hannibal card.
Okay, so this is the Hannibal card here.
Yes. So Hannibal there, the 1 in the corner says you have to play a 1 to activate Hannibal. Now, armies move based on their leader, so you can have garrisons and things like that, but to move Hannibal, who has a really high combat rating, that 4, you have to have a low card to take advantage of that high rating, which is why low cards can be very, very valuable depending on how you're moving. The other general here who has a rating of, 2 or 3, well, you're having a 2 or 3 card, so you can play him with a 1, 2, or a 3, but his leadership rating is not going to be as good. Okay, when you move, you get dealt a handful of cards based on how based on the card that you've got, the general that's there, the amount of soldiers that you have there. And cards are pretty straightforward. There are different types of maneuvers used in the day.
We got flank right, flank left.
Frontal assaults.
Frontal assault. And what are the... Ooh, double envelopment.
Okay. And that's just a handful of some of the cards that you've got there. What happens if you and I were playing together, the person with the highest general score would be the first person to play a card. Mm-hmm. I play a right flank. Mm-hmm. You have to counter with a right flank or you lose. You lose the battle.
Oh, wow.
Could be, so the very first maneuver could be something you go, I can't counter that. If you play a right flank, you have an opportunity to seize the initiative. Mm-hmm. In that case, you need to roll based on your general. Under certain die roll, you get to seize the initiative. Then you get to play first, and I have to match you. So the combat is extremely fluid. You can get a case where one person is right flank, left flank, up center, I counter, I counter, I counter. The number of cards you play can go very, very deep into your combat deck. Or you can go, very first card, I assault the center. Right. So the higher your generalship, the more troops you have, the higher your hand of cards. So you have sort of a predisposition to be ideally placed, but you can still get outflanked. You can still find the combat go against you in a really, really short order. Combat is very dynamic and very exciting because you may have a handful of 9, 10 cards, and it can come down to your last card. What's gonna exactly? What do I play and how do I play? He's played a lot of right flanks. Do I dare play another one, or maybe we just have a run of that particular card? So, well done mechanic there.
So, what are some of your favorite aspects of this game?
Oh, wow.
I know that's a tough question.
It is, because this game is one of those games that's done right. And after 20 years, you look at the rules and you say, well, might be able to make this clearer. I might be able to make this make a little more sense in regard to what was originally intended. But you don't look at any component of it and go, yeah, that really didn't work. So you never get to a point where this is one of those games after 20 years where you go, that didn't work. I hope they rewrite that. It's not a second or a third edition. It's the first edition beautified, and it really looks nice on the table. It plays well. You look at it and you get a real strong sense of the strategy of what's going on. I love it's scenario based. So this is on the board right here is kind of set up for the standard scenario, but there's different scenarios that you get to play. So you've got tons of replayability, and it's a different tactical challenge each time.
Can you speak a little bit about some of the challenges about bringing an older game such as this one, 20th Anniversary Edition here, into production again to start recirculating it and getting it in front of new consumers for the first time?
The first problem we ran into, quite frankly, was we couldn't get it out fast enough. The minute we announced that we were going to do this, there was just this wellspring of customers saying, finally, I may get to have a copy of it. I don't have to rely on my friend's copy, or I haven't been able to play it in years because of whatever circumstance. So that was the first thing, is can we go faster? Can we do things that make this work better? The other thing is trying to keep the production value high, because we really wanted to make it special. So 20 years ago, use of plastic was not as widespread, and being able to do figures like this was really not that common, and really kind of price prohibitive. Right. So trying to upgrade the components, thicker cardstock, thicker board with a fully wrapped board, trying to have a thick cardstock for the tokens and components, and making that something that worked really well for players, so that they really felt like, wow, it's not a $150 game that was coming out and being out of my price point, but it still feels like I'm getting a really good value for my money for a game that I'm really looking forward to.
Absolutely. So where can we find Hannibal and Hamilcar?
At your local hobby store. So it's like I say, this is the set you're looking at right here was one of the first ones off the presses as a production sample to make sure that everything was right, make sure there's no tweaking. Full production is well underway, and so should be available within just a couple weeks. Okay.
Fantastic. So everyone at home, keep your eyes peeled. Just a couple weeks down the line, you can see Hannibal and Hamilcar in your friendly local game store. So I see you've got another game here that we could talk about a little bit briefly.
I will. We'll just set this on top here. This is Master of the Galaxy, and Master of the Galaxy is not as fully advanced as Hannibal is. What we have here is The box, as it will appear, there might be some minor tweaking in the text and things like that, but inside are honestly the testing components. So I really don't have anything there that I can show you that's gonna look more than like paper cards and handwritten tokens. So Master of the Galaxy is a true exploit, expand type of game. You really have a 4x experience on the board. It is a smaller game, so you're really playing in a very tightly controlled map, so conflict can be really, really fast. Each player plays one of the different races, and each race is unique. Each race is trying to gather resources to upgrade their technologies, to expand out into the universe, and then from that point you decide what kind of victory am I going for? Technology victory? Am I trying to conquer a certain number of planets? What is my path to victory? And so you have a couple of ways you're maybe going to try to win, but at the same time you're trying to slow down your opponent. So you can get into a very strategic situation where you're working really hard on your own goal, which you may have to abandon temporarily to stop someone else from reaching their goal, so that then you have time to complete your goal.
You got to play a little defense to have your offense.
Exactly. And even starting with a different race, same players with different races, the game feels very, very different. So you get a really high replayability with it because of one, decks of cards being used to kind of control some of the pieces, and with the different racial special effects, you get a really different feel each time.
Fantastic. So we're starting to run short on time now. Is there anything else you wanted to talk to about Master of the Galaxy? Any more information you can give us about this game and when we can expect to start seeing it? I know you said that we're in the development stage in terms of the assets of the game itself. But when can we start to see it?
This will be a summer release, so we should be able to see this August, September kind of time frame.
Okay.
A lot depends on production, a lot depends on shipping, which nowadays more and more, if stuff is getting produced on shore, shipping has become quite a hot topic. So the rules themselves are locked down, so now it's just a matter of turning up the machines and getting things sorted out. Our hope is around the 1st of August, and we'll see if everything falls into place on something like that.
Fantastic. Now, is there anything else that you can tell us about ARES Games and what's coming through the pipeline?
One thing with ARES is ARES is an Italian company, which makes them not necessarily unique in the U.S. market, because there are plenty of European companies that do very well and produce great products for the American market. But having a company that's more Euro-known coming to the United States, it gives them an opportunity to work with different designers and developers. So ARES, for example, working with Gremlin Project, or working with Phalanx, which is a Polish company, or Galatka, another Polish company. Having those kind of tie-ins, ARES has been able to partner with different companies who do these really great products, but they only do it in Polish and German. And now we're going to have an English language version. So you may have a product that has a ton of good press in a tight market, and now it's coming over and it's going to feel very unique and bring a kind of a new kind of game sensibility to the American market, which we're really looking forward to.
Bring that Euro backbone game to the American
market. Something
that's already established and known.
Yes, and the Polish products are outstanding. They're doing some really great products over there, which unfortunately most Americans just haven't had the exposure to, because it's just too hard to get those products over here and get them localized in a way that makes sense. So hopefully ARES is going to be able to fill that gap.
Fantastic. Well, Jim, thank you for joining us this evening. We really do appreciate it. And thank all of you for watching at home. Stay tuned for more coverage throughout the day today from the GAMA Exposition here in Reno, Nevada. Stay tuned for more. As usual, though, I'm Matt. Thanks again, Jim.
Thank you very much, guys.